Alright, so today we're going to see if we can beat Elden Ring's DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, only using Scarlet Rot. As for rules, we can only use things that give rot, for example, rotten breath, stray ashes, rot pots, things along those lines. Before we start our journey, let's lay out the groundwork. Now, in order to get to the DLC, we need to kill both Mohg and Radahn. Once we are in the DLC, our goal will be to kill all of the Remembrance bosses and Bayle. So those are our goals. Now let's hop into the lands between. We choose the Confessor class as it does spec towards Rotten Breath, and that's going to be the first incantation we will be going for. We create our beautiful character and start our journey. We pick up Torrent from Rellana, grab the Wondrous Physic, as well as some golden seeds and sacred tears. We grab both of the Dectus halves, pick up the Green Turtle Talisman, as well as our first crucial tool of this challenge, the Rotten Stray Ashes. This Rottweiler is going to be our savior, so let's go test out this puppy on Margit. Our main purpose here is to just be a distraction. We will try our best to grab aggro from Margit and let the dog put in the work. Once he's put in enough work and given Margit rot, we can let the dog die. Now, from this point on, it becomes a test of endurance. We just must simply survive as Margit will succumb to the rot. We just gotta run circles around him until he does. And the reason why we are killing Margit is simply for the talisman pouch, as the DLC is hard and we're gonna need as much help as possible. And just like that, Margit goes down. The Rottweiler carried us here, but this little guy won't be able to do that to everyone, as he's quite frail. So in order to help with that, we bring Rodrika to the round table. We collect some Grave Gloveworts and level him up to +5. Then we attempt to get a Dragon Heart, as it is required for the Rotten Breath spell. And we fail, because even the first dragon in the game has a massive Fire Breath attack that just kills the stray. But luckily we have a solution for that. We go pick up Shabriri's Woe. And now we just have to try and stick near the dragon at all times and just hope that it works out. This took a lot of attempts, but eventually we got lucky enough to where he does proc the dragon, and again, it was just our job to stay alive. The dragon goes down and we get rewarded with our Dragon Heart. We then take that over and cash it in at the Cathedral of the Dragon Communion for our beloved Rotten Breath incantation. Now that we have that, it's time to get some levels. The Knight's Calve falls to his demise and we can level up just a little bit. We pick up some armor, grab Erdtree's favor, and just like that, it's time for Radahn. Our stray cannot be summoned here, but luckily Radahn is very susceptible to rot, so just after one cast of the spell, he was doomed. Now it was just a matter of taking Radahn for a walk around the arena. He does eventually run out of rot and we have to go back in and give him another proc, but just like the first time, it only takes one cast. He does end up shifting into phase 2, but we are just far enough at this point to where it doesn't really matter. He's not a threat. We're just kind of waiting out the clock. Rot does end up running out for a second time, and we have to go and kill him with our incantation. Luckily, he was low enough to where Rotten Breath just kills him. And now with Radahn dealt with, it is time to focus on Mohg. So we start Varia's questline. We invade Magnus. We then lose a finger, and we can now access Mohg. Now, Mohg sucks. Even with the ability to rot him, we are simply not strong enough. So, we head over to Grail and use Rotten Breath to give her rot. Now we just wait around until she dies, and this levels us up nicely. We also grab the Purifying Crack here after rotting Eleonora, because this will be crucial to kill Mohg. We give him a couple tries, and it just ends in death. So, before we take him out, we have one last tool. We simply aren't strong enough, so we have to go grab Godric's Great Rune, which requires us killing Godric. We summon in the Rottweiler and use our Rotten Breath spell, and that was enough. just one cast of the spell, and Godric had Rot. And now I just sort of let the puppy 1v1 Godric as I just sort of watched on, and he was doing a good job. Like, he took a while to die. He ends up bringing him into phase 2, and I don't have to do anything. The dog was going crazy for me. Now, instead of just sitting around and waiting, I decided to go on the offensive and just sort of start spamming him with the Rotten Breath, because on top of giving Rot, it's just a good spell. It does good damage to Godric, and the range is insane, so we just take him out from the top of the stairs. He wasn't much of an issue, but like I said, he was just a stepping stone to grab this, Godric's Great Rune. Now, Mohg was very annoying, and we had to have it down to a strat. We first need to use Rotten Breath on Mohg twice, because that'll build up his meter just enough to where Rotten Ashes will be able to give him Rot. And the reason why we want Rotten Ashes to give him Rot over us is his Rot is just better. I don't know why it is, but it just is. Like, I think if I give Mohg Scarlet Rot, it lasts for like 7,000 damage, which is good damage. But when the Rotten Stray gives him Rot, it lasts for like 13,000 damage. So he's just better, but we do want to have it build up for him because he is still very frail in this fight, and Mohg does have a lot of moves that will just kill it. Like when he summons blood above his head, your summon just dies. But once he does have Rot, it is again an endurance test, and he's one of the hardest endurance tests. And the reason why this fight is uniquely hard is because you need not 1, not 2, but 3 Rot procs in order to take out Mohg, because he does just regen his health transitioning into phase 2, and that just sucks. Once he loses the Rot effect, it becomes significantly harder because the openings in this second phase for Rotten Breath are non-existent. We just can't. I just have to get far enough away and just hope he doesn't go for a lunging attack that will just kill me. So after running back and forth enough times, we do give him Rot again. We are getting hit just trying to cast, so this is what I was talking about with it being just so hard. And a lot of the times we aren't letting it get the full cast off. We are just doing taps simply because it is the safest option, which makes this process take a lot longer than it needs to. But I wanted to win. I was sick of dying. And once we give him Rot, we will be trying to use our incantation whenever we can just to get extra damage in. The Rot alone won't be able to take him out, but the Rot damage plus us attacking constantly will be just enough to take out Mohg. And after a 10-minute long battle, we kill Mohg. This was the longest fight I think I've ever had in Elden Ring. With Mohg out of the way, that means we are done with the Lands Between. We can now head into the DLC, and remember, our goal here is to kill all the Remembrance bosses and Bayle. We touched the Withered Hand and entered the DLC. I won't bore you with showing me picking up every single Scadutree fragment or Spirit Ash, so I will have a counter in the top right, which will keep track of that. We then head into the Scarlet Rot jail, grab some hefty cracked pots, pick up Great Jar, which enhances pot damage, break these rocks here to unseal the Spirit Spring, and this is important because it opens up the whole map without having to kill a singular boss. We then head over to Bonnie Village to grab some more hefty pots. We get one out of Shadow Keep. We then make our way to the ancient ruins of Rau, grab this Potented's cookbook, which gives us access to hefty rot pots. We then upgrade our turtle talisman for a 2-headed turtle talisman. We take out this troll for yet another hefty pot, and we explore the boats around the shore for some grave gloveworts, and this allows us to get our stray up to +10. We then make a quick pit stop back to Limgrave to pick up our Dragon Communion Seal, which will further boost our Rotten Breath attack. Now at long last, with +12 Scadutree and +7 Spirit Ash, it was time to take out the first boss, the Divine Beast Dancing Lion. Now, I didn't do my research beforehand, meaning I was not aware of which bosses were gonna be able to get rot or not. I just think it's more fun to find out during the playthrough, so going into this I had no clue. Luckily though, this one does get rot, and quite quickly at that. We cast just one singular Rotten Breath and it gives him Scarlet Rot. From there it is an endurance test, but our Rottweiler is so strong at this point and is able to distract him so well, so I don't have to do anything for around half of his HP. I'm just straight chilling, but once the dog was dead, it was a different story. He ran out of rot quite quickly, and luckily just like the first time, it only took one cast of our incantation to give him rot. This guy does have a massive arena, making this endurance test not that bad at all. We just sort of let him freak out in every color of element he wants to. Rot does end up running out a third time, but just like the previous 2 times, it just took one cast, and we give it to him again, and then we can just slowly watch him perish. For the first boss, it was not difficult whatsoever, and we take those. Time for Rellana. Just like Mohg, we're going to be trying to get the Rotten Stray to proc the Rot, as it does significantly more damage this way, and that is preferred because this arena is very small and she's just super aggressive, so it's just very hard to get it off. Luckily, until she phase shifts, she doesnn't have a ton of long range attacks. I think she just has like big sword and phalanx, so we can just abuse that fact and just infinitely kite her around the circle, and she won't hit us unless I make a mistake, which I was prone to, but Rot eventually does run out. At this point though, she was very low. The timing was great because she was doing her triple moon attack, so I could get a free hit in, or so I thought. Then she does it again. Like, what are we doing here? I then find an opening to throw a hefty rot pot at her, and 1 is all it took to give her rot. So we then finish the fight by kiting around until she dies, but before she does die, she tries to get a 3rd set of moons. Like, dude, she wanted me dead so bad, but we get the better of her. We then scoop up some stones to level up our seal to +10. Now it's time for the Putrescent Knight. We summon our little guy and we start breathing on him immediately. With our new +10 seal, we're doing really good damage, and Rotten Breath is now viable as a weapon and not just a tool to give rot. The Knight moves very fast due to being on his horse, making this not as easy as the other 2 fights we've had so far. Usually I would just kite into infinity, but now I actually gotta dodge. Boo! We get our Rotten Breaths in whenever he does that spinning attack where he's off his horse. Because it takes a while for him to remount the horse, making him very vulnerable, that's when we will utilize our attacks. We end up getting into his 2nd phase rather quickly, and this phase will just kill our dog with every attack. It can't really be avoided. The AoE is just too good. So RIP our puppy, and Rot eventually does run out, doing a nice 12k damage. We still utilize the off horse attack, but this time we use it to throw rot pots and get instant rots. I can't stress how good the pots are. There's very few times where you'll need multiple. Usually it's just 1 throw of the rot pot, boom, rot, and then you're just free to do your thing. Unfortunately, they didn't get the job done, and I had to finish him off myself with just a singular Rotten Breath. We then head back to Caelid to take out this putrid avatar purely so we can get the Opaline hard tier, which when consumed gives us a 15% boost on all damage negations, which will help survivability in this challenge a ton. Alright, this isn't the most honest way of doing it, but you know what? I'm sick of trying to fight this guy honestly. We're just gonna run over here, put you right here, and then I go stand here, and you get stuck on the big wall like a good hog rider, and I can sit here and attack you through the wall. Okay, I need you to stand in the proper spot. Alright, now we have Rot, and now we wait until phase 2 because that'll put him out of the corner because he has the big jump, and then we try to do it again. Not the most honest way, but this guy just kind of sucks to fight with or without Rot. Okay, and now I can try to manipulate him over here. That is not great. Should be able to get him stuck in the corner again, and hopefully, come on, okay, we have given him rot, but we might as well just use the rest of our FP up, get some damage in to try to make this a little quicker. 1, 2, oh, I messed it up. Surely he doesn't get out of the corner though. Uh-oh. I don't like this. No. Okay, we got him. Nice. We'll take it. We'll take it. While we are over here, we pick up the golden braid because we will need it desperately for Radahn. We then take this suspicious looking coffin because I wanted to give Midra a visit. Turns out they hurt a lot. So instead, we take a dive down this pit, and it's time to get our secret weapon, the Ancient Dragon's Blessing, which increases all damage negation by 10% for 70 seconds. We will be using this on the rest of the boss fights from now on, as we are saving Bayle for last to make everything else just a little easier. Before we head back to Midra, we do Ymir's questline, so we talk to him at the cathedral, and then we blow on 1, 2, and 3 fingies. This unlocks the mommy finger fight, so we might as well do it now. We start out by summoning our Rottweiler. Similar to the other fights, it is ideal to get the dog to cause rot, so we use our spell once to try to get a bit of a buildup and hope that our aggro drawn will be enough for the dog to go in and do his thing and get the rot off. We get lucky with Finger Mommy targeting me instead of the dog, and he eventually does his job inflicting rot. Now, because there are very few projectiles in phase 1, we just simply run as far away as possible because this arena is massive, which allows us to basically stay out of the fight for as long as possible. She only has like 1 laser beam attack, and like that's very predictable, so no problems there. Once she is in phase 2, it's a whole different story, as she has a ton of projectiles, which means I actually have to get good. The terrifying attack here is when she decides to go full Beyblade and let it rip on us, sending herself flying towards us, because if dodged wrong, I've just been one-shot by this attack, and that does not feel good. Also in this phase, we have to keep an eye out on all the little finger babies she spews out, as they can be pests. Our rot ends up running out at around 28,000 damage, which is insane. Shout out the rot dog. Now, we gotta find proper openings so we can cause rot. The best opening is when she's doing her giant laser beam attack, because there is a lot of downtime where I can just sort of sit there and attack freely as long as the little fingers leave me alone, and we do end up giving her rot this way, and she falls shortly after. Once we were done with mommy fingers, we make our way back over to Midra, we drink our physic, and then head into the fight. Midra starts off with the same attack every single time, so we wait it out before we summon our stray. Once we summon, the plan is simple. We must try to hold aggro as long as possible, simply to allow the dog to do its thing. We do get lucky this time, and he does prot rock for us. Usually, it's very difficult to keep the dog alive, as all of their attacks are AoE, which is a huge issue. But once the dog is dead, it is very hard to stay alive because Midra is super aggressive, and not only that, the arena is very small, meaning I can't just kite around freely. We get Midra into phase 2 quite quickly, but that's just where things ramp up. Now every attack is a problem, and I mean every single attack. She's lunging at us, shooting stuff at us, launching stuff at us. It just never ends with Midra. The rot does run out after doing a massive 30k damage, and now this is where it gets difficult. I can't just focus on dodging. I now need to find a timing to get attacks in. So we need to get a couple of rot pots off, and Midra does not make it easy. We do eventually get them off, and the reason why we rely on rot pots and not our spell is simply because I couldn't afford to. I was taking too much damage throughout the whole fight, so I simply put all of our flasks over to healing and didn't bother with FP. But after many attempts, we take out Midra, and wow, what a tough fight. Sunflower time. Now, I know I've been referring to all these fights as endurance tests, but this is a true testament to that, as we have to deal with not 1, not 2, but 3 phases of HP and proc rot on each of them. Luckily, Dragon Breath got us. Due to the high headshot damage the avatar takes, I could go on the offensive for once and really utilize the fact that I can spray his face from below or even behind him. This does good damage and builds up rot quickly, making phase 1 rather easy. Now, I do use my fist here to cause the phase shift so I could get the HP down, and if that counts as me cheating, then I technically just lost right there, but it's my challenge, so my rules around here, and we'll let it slide. Speaking of sliding, the flower loves to do that here, making him a pain to deal with, but just like phase 1, we keep the same strategy, stay on the offensive, get as much damage in as possible with our rotten breath, and we do try to utilize our Rottweiler in this phase to try to secure the rot, as I wanted to save my last 2 FP pots for the final phase. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, the dog ended up letting us down and just was kind of useless, just sort of died. But Rot is Rot, and it does its thing to bring us into phase 3. Now, we saved our Bayle buff for this phase because I know I'm getting hit by those explosions. We used the last of our FP trying to proc Rot, leaving me in a tough situation. I have to connect pots. I also didn't have any healing at this point. Just look at my HP. I managed to get one pot off on his stem, question mark, the main part of the flower. Anyways, it does give Rot. Now this is full on survival mode. I felt safest as far away as possible so I didn't get exploded on. Pause. But once we are far enough away, he only does his vine launch attack, which I felt the most comfortable dodging, so we just stayed back and dodged that, and it was very stressful, but we pull it off. Now we run into our first real problem. Romina does not get Rot. She eats it all day, every day, consumes that shit. That is her breakfast, lunch, and dinner, alright? She is immune to it. She has trained herself. So this means we have to break our rule set. So the answer to this video is no. You cannot beat the Elden Ring DLC only using Rot. The show must go on. We can work around this by picking up the Antspear Rapier, which does inflict Rot, but she can't get it, so we're just using it as a regular weapon to kill her, but like it gives Rot, so like, come on. I tried to make it work otherwise, but due to my stubbornness and not wanting to go any further in base game and just simply struggle with the tools that I have now, we had very limited healing, so it just didn't work out. Not much to say for this one. It's a very standard fight. We deal very little damage, but she's not a tough boss in the first place, so we just poke her a bunch with our impaling thrusts to end up taking her out. But because we did take her out, we can now use her new spell, Rotten Butterflies. This spell doesn't have very many use cases, but I had to make it work, so who better to use it on than Messmer? This fight was horrible for me to deal with, as the arena here is tiny and he is super aggressive. So we start out by dodging his slam attack, and we use this opportunity to use the Rotten Butterflies, and because it keeps you in place for so long, it is such a hard spell to get off consistently. But I was determined to make it work for Messmer, so we will be continuing to use it for this fight. And eventually we do get lucky, so it does end up giving him Rot. This means the spell was a success, and I will no longer be using it because this is a horrible spell. Thanks for the cool thumbnail. Now it's time to survive, and due to his constant barrage of attacks, he does not make it easy on us. I guess now while I let this play out, I can explain why I'm using a voiceover. During this playthrough, I was just horribly sick. I've been sick for like 2 weeks and it hasn't fully gone away, but like I'm sick of waiting to do this voiceover, so like I feel like my voice is good enough, and because I was just super sick, it just sounded horrible, and I just like decided not to commentate during the fights, making it harder on me now because now I have to write the script, blah blah blah. But it is what it is. The Rot does not end up getting him to phase 2, unfortunately, which means we have to use our Rot dog early and allow it to go in to end phase 1. Now here's where the real fun begins. We start off by dodging the massive slam down and using a hefty Rot pot to give Messmer Rot. All it took was one, baby. Also, thank you guys for 40k subs, by the way. I truly do appreciate it, and I appreciate you if you're watching this video now, and if you're still here, let me know how your day is going. I'm genuinely curious, and I will be responding to every single comment that I see, so let me know how you're doing. Messmer ends up killing our poor puppy, and now it's just up to me. Phase 2 I found was a bit easier, only due to his snake attacks giving me a little bit more breathing room because he spends so much time charging around in his snake form, and while he is doing all that shenanigans, he is taking Rot the whole time. Unfortunately, the Rot didn't last long enough to end Messmer, so we have to find even more openings to throw off some pots, and this time it takes multiple Rot pots. A rare occurrence, but we make do. Once he had Rot for the 3rd time, I just knew it was a matter of time before we put this snake down for good. Besides the final boss, this was the hardest fight of the whole challenge easily. Now with Messmer defeated, we can take Messmer's flame and go burn down the tree. We're not quite strong enough yet, as I spent a long time fighting the NPC gank fight and losing over and over and over again. So we head over to this painting and bring it to the dedicated spot, and it gives us the rock heart. With this, we can use it to transform ourselves into dragon form, and while in this form, we can use the rock heart again, and it gives us a 20% damage buff to dragon incantations for a set amount of time. Now, it's time to get serious. We summon our dog, and we wait for Hornsent to spawn in. We attack instantly to try to overwhelm him with constant rot breath, and just after 3 casts, Hornsent's gone. Dryleaf Dane is a bit of a different story. He has a lot of HP, so we can't just delete him. Leda ends up spawning in shortly after, making this fight a pain. Our saving grace here is that Dane can get rotted. Leda, however, cannot. So we use this time to kite around and pray for openings, because they come few and far between. We just have to run circles until we gain enough distance between the two to deal damage. We also are very limited on healing pots in this fight, as I needed almost all of my pots into FP. I think we were rocking 8 FP pots and 3 healing pots, which made this a lot harder. We also utilize the talisman that we picked up from one of the finger horns that raises the amount of FP per pot. We end up getting a good enough spacing to take out Dane, and now it was just hoping that we had enough raw damage to defeat Leda. We have to make sure we are constantly buffed with the rock heart before we can attack, because this fight comes down to the wire. With only 1 cast of rotten breath left and no healing pots, we just have to hope that it's enough once we apply this last buff, and oh, we did it. What a horrible fight. I will never like that. Anyways, time for Radahn. Oh, fuck. Can I get this off? No. Oh, God. I quickly learned that we will have to utilize every single tool we have, and even then, a lot of them are not reliable. Like Rotten Breath, when do I have time to get that off? It just takes so long, and the openings just aren't there. So we can't get away with using it a whole bunch, but we can still make it work. The Rotten Stray will also not be very good, because he just dies to like every attack Radahn goes for, and I won't be using a cheesy weapon, because that just feels wrong. So we must beat Radahn mainly using hefty rot pots. Here we go. I think this one speaks for itself, as it truly was a struggle and a beautiful fight all at once, and I got like a little lucky, but like let's keep that on the low key. Phase 1, sure, very easy. I apply rot, and then I can just sort of run around and keep our distance. Phase 2, not that easy. So I will let it play out, and in-game Curtis will have some words for you once we defeat this monster. All right, I will be back for Bayle. No, wait, die. Please, please. Oh my god. Say it, please, pop up. I got the remembrance. Okay, we're good. Oh my gosh. Oh, dude. Wait, okay, we are good. Oh my gosh, that took so long. I've been sick like all week, like literally since Monday. It's right now Saturday the 13th. Today I was like, you know what? I'm sick of being in bed. I'm so glad we did it. Oh, that sucked. I don't recommend that for anyone. Still got Bayle though. I mean, I don't imagine him being hard, but wow, that was freaking. We got him. I was so worried that the rot was gonna run out, or we just wouldn't have enough to kill him. I'm so glad that worked. All right, Bayle, I almost forgot about you. Honestly, compared to what I just went through, this was a piece of cake. Like, it took me one try. Rotten Breath did so much work, and as cool as Bayle is, he just wasn't a match for us. Probably my favorite boss of the DLC though. I will also do a similar thing and let this one play out because like I just feel repetitive. Like, okay guys, we kite around the arena and let it die to rot. Like, no duh. All right, so I will let this one play out. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and shout out to Egon the GOAT. We play really aggressive and win the game. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe. All right, that'll be it for me. I will see you in the next video. It'll come out a lot quicker because I'm no longer sick. So no have to worry about that. Goodbye, guys. Oh, we're kissing. Curse you, Bayle. Nice. Alright, so that's it. We've killed all of the bosses, all the remembrance bosses, and if you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thank you guys for 40,000 subscribers. That happened recently while I was sick. And yeah, there will be more Elden Ring content on the way, especially DLC stuff. I'm super hyped. We're gonna get a lot of modded stuff as well. Like, we're gonna get convergence updates for this, I can only assume. Randomizers, etc, etc. So I have a lot of stuff to do. So thank you guys, and I will see you in the next video. It's been CurtisTheCactus, guys. Goodbye.